evening are now the words that we use. Hello, everybody. If you wouldn't mind putting your cameras on just for the beginning so I can see everybody's lovely faces. And we're just going to give it a couple of minutes to let people who are just finishing meetings, who are going to be joining, you know, a few minutes after the hour. Hello. Hi, everybody. Hi, Ewan. Hi, Danielle. Hi, Stephen. Hi, Kerry. Hi, Madhu. Hi, Angie. Oh, Angie, you made it. Excellent. The link worked. Excellent. Got you in here. Brilliant. Yoga with Priya. Oh, my goodness. Hello. We've got Ian. Ian, you've made it as well. It'd be lovely to see you. Hi, Kathy. Thanks for joining. We've got Alison. Lee. Mr. Harold. Good to see you, mate. How are you doing? Not seen that face in a long time. We got Keith.
Change much.
I know, right? It's lovely to see you. And we got Robin and Alison. If you wouldn't mind just putting your cameras on if you can, just to say hi. Ian can't get his camera to work. All right, no worries, Ian. Take your time. It would be nice to see you, though. Haven't seen that face for ages. Hi, Alison. Hi. Thanks for joining us. Hi, Robin. Good to see you. Oh, this is great. Hello. Wonderful. We've had a lot of interest on this webinar, and it's so great that you've come here to be here in person, because this is a different topic for me. This is something that I'm really, really passionate about, that I normally only talk to people about on a one-to-one basis or maybe in small groups. So it's a new topic for me to share on webinar, and it's so much better live because we're going to go on quite the journey together. So we've got Suzanne. Hi, Suzanne. If you wouldn't mind putting your videos on for the beginning of this, guys, so I can say hello, that would be lovely. And we got, hi, John. Hello. We got Jonathan. So we've got people here from all over the world, because I know some of you and I don't know some of you. Hi, Ross. Nice to see you. Thanks for joining. Hi, Mark. Hi, Gail. So from what I can see, and apologies if I don't add your location because I don't know that you're there. So we've got people in England, we've got people in Thailand, we've got people in Perth, we've got people in Sydney, we've got people up in Darwin, we've got people all over the world joining us. This is absolutely fabulous. Hi. Oh, hi, Chris. Nice to see you. Mr. Jordan.
Thank you. Yes, just had to go off mute. Hi, how are you, Zoe?
I'm really well, thanks. Thanks for joining us. This is brilliant. So I was just explaining, we're just letting the final few people join, but this is a topic that has caused a huge amount of interest. So I really hope you take something of value away today. This isn't something that I normally talk about on a webinar. This is normally a topic saved for my one-to-one clients or small groups. So I'd love to set you listening for this webinar. The webinar is about a discovery. I'm not here to teach you anything or tell you anything. I'm going to share knowledge, insights, personal experiences that I've had that are to do with this topic. But what I'd love you to do is listen from a place of discovery and look to discover something about yourself in your life and how maybe some of the lifestyle choices that you're making are impacting on your professional life, your personal life. We're recording this as well so that we send out, so you'll get the recording at the end of it. So if you're not comfortable with that, please, feel free to turn your cameras off. I would love it if you would stay and be with us so that we can have a conversation as well. Sorry, camera off in the car. Hi, Keith. Oh, that's it. Nice to see you. Thanks for being with us. All right, welcome. And I just want to acknowledge two people on this webinar with us who aren't, well, they are participating, but they've actually created this for us. So Jay and Heather, who are my team, and without them, this wouldn't be in existence. So I have shown up today to speak with you all, but they've actually created all the emails that you've received, the platform that we use to enroll you and register you, the content that I'm about to share and show with you. So Jay and Heather, thank you so much. Heather is actually in New York, so it's very early in the morning for her. So thank you for being here with us. And Jay is currently in the mountains south of Barcelona. So thank you, team, for all of your efforts. Right. Without further ado, let's get into the content. So what I am sharing with you today is about creating energy and time by understanding your lifestyle choices. Now, most people say to me, what is it? How is it possible? Yes, I understand how to create energy. Most of us think we understand how to create energy, but how do you create time? Time is a finite resource, right? Not entirely true. So what I'd like you to do is think about, when you're listening to me, think about an area of your life where you'd love to access more energy or more time, or maybe both. And as I'm sharing with you my knowledge and insights and my personal stories, really think about it from the context of your own life, as opposed to trying to consume knowledge from me. Really self-reflect. So, and also this is a discussion. So I'm, as most of you know who've worked with me, I'm really good at talking, and I can talk and talk and talk and talk. I don't want that to be the case. I'll be exhausted, especially Lee. Lee's smiling there because Lee used to work with me. If you've got anything to say, or you've got a question, or you've got a comment, raise your digital hand if you want to, or just take yourself off mute and just shout out, because I don't mind being interrupted. I'd much rather the questions and comments came through naturally, and that we all partake in it. That's the reason for you being here live. Otherwise, you could just watch a recording. So that would be great. Okay, let's get started without further ado. So we're going to start with the power of consumption. So these are the 4 areas that we're going to talk through today. So the power of consumption, and we'll talk about what we mean by consumption in a second. How to create vitality, the key to an empowered lifestyle, and then we'll do some questions and follow-up. Okay. So I want to start, before I go on to the next slide, I'd love to start by just asking you, and if you want to take yourselves off mute and contribute, when I say consumption, what do you think I mean? What does consumption mean to you when we talk about the power of consumption?
Zoe, the ability just to burn up time.
Right, consumption of time. Thank you, Jonathan. Yeah, that's one definition. That's a good one. What else do we consume?
Just all of our resources, whether it's time, money, energy, how we utilize whatever is available to us.
Right, so tangible, but time's a bit intangible. Energy is intangible. Okay, thank you. I'm hearing that. So using up stuff around us.
Something is.
Go on, Chris.
Yeah, is there something around the emotional bank account that you have with people that are close to you, and just consuming that up?
Yeah, absolutely. Brilliant. Thank you. The emotional bank account. What else? There's a fair few things there, aren't there? So we're not, and I love those answers, because we're not just talking about energy as in what you consume, what you drink, and the energy that you've got physically, but we're going to talk today about energy from a physical, from a mental, from an emotional, if we want to go there, from a spiritual perspective, and how the consumption of all of that impacts on the time that you have and the time that you have available to you, because it directly impacts on time. Time in my world is not a finite resource. Time is infinite if we know how to generate and rehabilitate our energy resources properly. Any questions on that before I move on? Multitasking here, team. I'm getting it. I'm doing gallery. I'm going back to slides. It's amazing. I could not do this a year ago, by the way, people. I was very technologically inept. So consumption from my perspective is all of those things that we spoke about. And a lot of my clients that I work with know that I'm really, really hot on what they're consuming from a food and liquid perspective. All of us know how that impacts on our body, on our minds, on our energy. We'll talk about that in a little bit of detail in a second. But really, the area that I want to talk about first, the most important, the most interesting to me, is what we consume that impacts on our mental resilience and our mental capacity. Now, you might not realize this, but there is so many messages being signaled to us all day, every day, not just through what we're seeing, not just through what we're hearing, but through the environment that we're putting ourselves in, the relationships, to your point, Chris, that we're exposing ourselves to, the conversations that we're exposing ourselves to, not just partaking in, but the conversations that we're exposing ourselves to. So even the office environment that we sit in and the people that we have around us, the radio that's on in the background, the news bulletins, the adverts, the TV that's on in the corner, the movies that we choose to watch, the books that we choose to read, the articles that we choose to consume, the banner on the internet, the advert banner on the side of the internet page that you're looking at, and what that's flashing subconsciously to you. There's consumption going on all of the time, mentally. And what that does is that then gets stored away in our brain. That gets stored away in our subconscious brain, and it causes us to think, it causes us to make meaning, it causes us to judge, it causes us to have thoughts about things that we don't even know where those thoughts have come from. Can you think of a time where you've just had I call them kind of drop-ins, where we can have insights from nowhere, but more often than not, we've consumed something, we've been exposed to something, we've had an experience where that insight has been stored away in our subconscious mind, and then it comes back to haunt us or not. It might be a joyful experience. So the power of consumption is incredibly strong. What we eat, what we drink, what we consume mentally. So the eating and drinking is the physical. The mental is the thinking, so the reading, the listening, the viewing, the environment that we put ourselves in. And then we're also consuming energy as well, emotional energy from other people. So the relationships that we're in, how are those impacting on our energy consumption? Has anybody got any questions? So the language, so the kind of words and language that we're consuming and that we're allowing enter our brain, that then causes us to have an internal dialogue running, that causes us to have thoughts ourselves. Now, I don't know if any of you have noticed, but you can't actually stop your thoughts, and your thoughts aren't actually you, because if you can hear your thoughts, you are not your thoughts because you are hearing them. Let's not get into who you are. That's a different webinar, but your thoughts are not you. There's something else that's running in the background that you're conscious of and aware of most of the time. And sometimes we're in control of those thoughts, so you can actually consciously think a thought. So if I say to you now, think of a dog, you can think of a dog. However, 95 to 98% of the thoughts that we have running in our minds, either subconsciously or consciously, are not in our control. It's running in the background. It's a processing machine. It's like a computer. And what our brain is there to do is to scan our environment and to tell us whether the environment is safe or not, to tell us whether we need to take any action or whether we can stand still. Do we need to run? Do we need to move? Do we need to stay still? What do we need to do? Tell our body what to do. So what we're consuming links to that. What we're consuming has our brain make up meaning, make up judgment about the environment that we're in, the people and the environment, and then it causes us, it sends signals to our body to tell our body what to do. So there's a lot going on here. And the reason I'm giving you this background is because this is all consuming energy. All of this going on in the background is consuming energy. Now notice also the environment. Now it's not just our office environment where we're being exposed to these things. We'll be exposed to it when we go and pick our kids up from school. We'll be exposed to it when we go to the doctors. We'll be exposed to it when we go to the supermarket. So everywhere that we go, we're exposed to marketing, signs, text, sounds, smells. We are a sensory being. We've got our 5 senses, so they tell us, maybe there's more we don't know, but we've got our 5 senses that we know about, and we're taking information in and we're consuming information. So this is another type of consumption. We're consuming information through our senses and feeding our brain information. And the brain then turns that into meaning. It turns that into an interpretation of the environment around us. And that takes energy. So any questions on that? I'd be fascinated to know what you're thinking now. Has anybody got any thoughts, questions, anything that's popped into your head where you go, oh yeah, that's interesting. What about? No?
Zoe,
Jonathan?
it makes me think straight away about just clearing your brain in the morning, maybe through meditation or something like that, or actually just trying to reframe everything. So maybe playing some music before you walk into the office or you're about to start work.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you. That's a really good contribution, because what I've noticed a lot in the last 18 months since we've been in this global pandemic situation, with people not having commutes or not having the ability to move between meetings, not sitting on a train, not sitting on a bus, not walking down an empty corridor for even just 10 seconds, but we're going from one meeting to another. If you have been working in an online environment, I know not everyone on this call has, but if you have been working in a mostly online environment, that has taken away that opportunity for our brain to do a little reset. And to your point, Jonathan, it doesn't have to be like, you don't have to sit down and be a master of meditation and do 45 minutes of, it can just be a 10-second walk from one meeting room to another, or a walk to the water machine, or, a stroll outside to get a sandwich. That's all we need to do a mental reset, but we don't necessarily have as much of an opportunity to do that, or haven't over the last 18 months. And I know for sure that that's one of the things that has led to a lot of burnout and a lot of dips in resilience across the world, where people are saying, I just get brain fog. I'm like, yeah, I'm not surprised, because your brain is on all the time and it's being fed all of this information and it's being overstimulated. So we're going to talk about stimulation and the nervous system and how we tackle that.
Zoe, just a question from my side. will
Yes,
that
Chris.
impact your ability to prioritize as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So that brain fog that great question, thank you. The more overstimulated our nervous system and brain is, the more fatigued it gets. And we can't actually feel brain fatigue. It's not a sensation. It's exactly that. It's when things slow down. It's when there's a bit of muddled confusion. I'm not as sharp as I normally am. I'm not hearing everything that people are saying. I'm not able to make decisions fast enough. Whatever it is that you notice about your cognitive processing, and it might be, I'm not as sharp on my prioritization. What's gone on there? It's just, there's too much input, and there's not enough rest and repose and restore, which we'll go on to in a second. What's the difference between input and stimulation and actually giving your brain a little bit of a reset, like Jonathan said? So yeah, notice for yourself. That's a really great question to self-reflect on, because the thing that I love about this topic is it is not general. There is not a rule for every human being, all 7 billion of us, in this topic. It is very personal. It is very individual. So what are the signs that you can look out for to say, actually, I'm probably consuming too much through my senses? How do I know when my brain isn't quite getting what it needs in terms of rest, in terms of restorative time, to be able to prioritize and make the right decisions? One person that I work with who is on this call, I won't name them, but just a couple of weeks ago, and they'll know who they are when I tell this story, was just in exactly that situation. They'd done a whole week or two of face-to-face interactions with their teams, and they lead hundreds of people. It's a very exhausting experience to go through when you have to stand up in front of hundreds of people and you have to lead these, you're a leader and you've got to lead these meetings and you've got to repeat the same message over and over and over again to the hundreds of people that you're leading, and make sure that you get it consistent, make sure you can answer their questions, make sure that you're showing up consistently to every single one. So at the end of something like that, like a roadshow or a town hall experience, you can find your brain just kind of I just can't process things like I could 2 weeks ago. And when you're doing something like that, it's easy to let sleep go, it's easy to let the diet go, it's easy to let what you're consuming physically slip a little bit as well. Add all those things up together. You might be away from your family while you're doing it. You might not be getting to pat the dog every night, which is another great way to slow yourself down. So all of these things add up and deplete our energy, and then have an impact on our cognitive ability and our physical ability and our emotional ability. So you might find yourself feeling more emotional, more overwhelmed, more sensitive, and sensitivity can show up either as someone who's, quite sensitive and soft with it, or sensitive and gets frustrated easily. You get triggered more easily because that resilience has dipped. So it impacts on everything. And then, of course, how does this link to time? Well, if you're slower in your decision making, slower in your problem solving, slower in your prioritization, you don't have as much time as someone who has got their energy levels in balance and in check, who can make those things happen quicker. So the time it takes to make things happen is extended, and then you have less time. So when I work with people and they say, I just don't have enough time, I just haven't got time, I'll look at their energy. I'll look at their consumption of energy and what they're consuming that's causing their energy to drop and dip, because you can create time through managing your energy, if you get what I mean. We'll come on to more of that in a second. I love this image. The team found this image. It's a bit of a sorry image, isn't it? But it's actually quite true. So, we do, if you walk around the streets, I'm in Perth now, for those of you that don't know. So I've actually finally made my way to Perth, which is a huge victory in Australia at the moment. But if you walk around the streets, I watch people. I'm an observational coach. So a lot of my coaching is observing people rather than actually interacting with them. And you see this a lot. You don't see people with TVs around their ankles, but how many people do you notice walking around with their faces in their phones? Constantly consuming. It happens a lot, and it affects our vitality and it affects our energy levels. So just take a second. I'd love for you to share, either in the chat box or shout it out. What are you seeing for yourself in terms of what you consume, how you consume it, and how it impacts on your vitality and your energy? Heather, have we got any questions in the chat? Because I can't see all of them at the same time.
No questions. A lot of people are just discussing. Priya was mentioning how the increasing cortisol in the body, which affects how we feel and do things. And I said, yep, that's definitely.
Went on to that. Yeah. Great one, Priya. Thank you. Yeah.
Zoe,
Yes.
So I think for me, one of the main ones, particularly with the pandemic has demonstrated, is the way we consume the news and media. Obviously, it's there for an agenda to make money, and negative news sells. And as a consequence, that's what's constantly pumped into us. And I guess one of the prime examples of that to me is my mother-in-law, when there's been a stabbing down in London, and as you know, I live in Derby, so 250 odd miles away. It's like, the world's going to pot, or it's a mess. And it's like, well, no, you're just consuming negative information from across the country, across the world, and thinking that that's a full representation of the society you live in, when in reality it's not.
Absolutely, Lee, and we're coming on to that next, and that links to what Priya said about these stress hormones. Now, what you've just said and how I would summarize it is the reality that we live in is created by the thoughts and feelings that we have. There are 7 billion different versions of the world currently, because there are 7 billion different people all making the world occur to them as something different. And it's only when we have agreement through language. So if I was to say to you, your mum, oh yeah, it's really bad, isn't it? I agree. That then becomes a reinforced reality. It doesn't mean it is reality. It just is a reinforcement of reality. So you're absolutely right.
Yeah. And I think social media plays into that, doesn't it? I was watching something
Massively.
by Russell Brand, and particularly the way algorithms work to monetize people.
Yeah.
They group together people with a similar mindset, so it compounds and amplifies that view.
Exactly. And that's when I work with organizations on their corporate culture. That's how we work on culture. We work on what are the agreements in place that are currently creating the culture within your organization, and are those agreements creating the culture you want or not? And it's all in the conversations that are being had, because agreement can only occur in language, and language only occurs when we speak to each other and when we actually share information. So either written, spoken, it's all agreements. I love what you've just said. So social media is asking us to form a view of reality and then agree with them on it. So is the news, so are hospitals, so are schools, so are our organizations, so are our families, so are our friends. Back to Chris's point around emotional relationships. You'll notice that the world is asking you to agree with it or not. And what you agree with becomes your reality, and what you don't agree with is not your reality. And that's how culture is created. Thank you. Yeah, you saw that when we worked together. That was an amazing culture, wasn't it?
Definitely. And having moved on to other organizations that say don't mirror that, you realize how much what works best for you and is best for your health.
Exactly. Yeah, thank you for that. All right.
Go
on. Hello. Hi, Ross. Nice to see you.
Yeah, you too. One thing that strikes me as well is because of the state of the world with climate change, there's a lot of anger, I think, as well, that we feel day to day. I mean, certainly I feel about the world that's being bequeathed to our children. Likewise with political leadership, certainly in the UK, which is against everything I believe. We teach our children the values of integrity and honesty, and what kind of lesson are they getting from people at the top who don't show those values at all? For me, it creates stress and a kind of cognitive dissonance in the world. And those are very powerful feelings, I think.
Actually, Zoe,
I realized I muted myself. What's the impact of that, Ross?
Sorry?
What's the impact of that? What you've just described, what you've just brought to life, because it's really, really powerful. What's the impact?
Well, I think it makes, personally, well, obviously I can only speak personally, but it makes me feel impotent and stuck, because you want to do something, but you can't do anything really. And I mean, okay, there are some small things that you can do, but it just makes me angry that we are, we're bequeathing a world to our children that we are destroying, and we are being led by people who are not fundamentally full of integrity and honesty, and that really concerns me as a parent and as a human.
And again, it's about what they're consuming, isn't it? What they're being exposed to and what they're consuming, and how that then creates their reality and their view of what's right and wrong. And yeah, get it totally. It's very, very powerful concept, this, which is why, and I'm so grateful that you're all here with me, because it's the discussion and it's the creation of it that actually makes the difference, rather than learning, which is why I invited you to discover something. Thank you.
Sorry.
Okay. Yes, go for it, Gail. Oh, sorry, Gail, did you want to say something? You've got your hand up. Or is she gone?
Sorry, it was Kathy. I had something to say. Just
Hi.
to add on to Lee, is for me, coming from South Africa, the corruption got so bad, and stealing from such desperately poor people just made me so angry and sick, and everything Lee said, and disheartened. And I just find living in England just easier day to day, because I don't carry that every day when I go out on the road and see what I used to see. So I understand what Lee is saying, and I completely relate to that.
Yes, thank you. And what I'm hearing in your sharing, Lee's and Ross's, is we can, and there is something we can do, Ross, and I know it can be disheartening, but what we can do is we can create ourselves, we can show up ourselves as something different, something more empowering, something more positive, something more inspiring for people to witness and be part of. Because again, it's about the environment. So if you can place yourself in front of children, or in front of your own children, or whatever part of community or society it is that you want to make a difference to, we can make a difference. It might not feel like enough, but it's always enough. Even one person is enough.
Oh, that's right, Zoe. And what we've done, and Jonathan, thank you for your comment. And what we've done in our business is create a set of core values that we all live by. And those values are the polar opposite of, I mean, that they're espousing exactly what I'm saying. So I say to the team that we're doing our bit to uphold the right values, or what I see as the right values.
Yeah. And it's making a dramatic difference, isn't it, Ross, since you started on that journey? Yeah. Yeah,
Priya, I'm gonna unmute you.
Thanks, Heather. Oh, she's muted again.
Oh,
hang on, Priya. Go on, Heather. You take, because yeah, there you go.
Super, thank you. And hi, Zoe.
Hi, Priya.
I was just thinking that when we were growing up, our parents used to filter information that we'd get. So we'd never get the full story. It'd always be a different version of whatever's happening in the world. But like you said earlier, there's so much information overload that we can't filter as much unless we filter. I'm really conscious of it. So I filter what my children see and hear. And if we're showing up differently, then that we can filter what we want to kind of bring into our aura. But there's no filter. So we are bombarded with so much information that it can make us feel that anxiety and a little bit of stress and all of them heightened emotions.
Yes.
And because there's no filter, we need to, I don't know, we can't even filter things. Everybody wants to give us this, whatever news they have. I feel like it was easier when growing up because our parents would tell us everything. Now I'm like that. Oh my God, what do I tell them? What do I not? Without on phones and devices.
I think it's a really good point. And one of the things that we now have to do more than ever before is establish boundaries. And it's hard to establish boundaries. Like to Lee's story, it's his mum who's really feeling something and it's real for her. And it's hard to say to people, no, that I don't agree, because you don't want to upset them. You don't want to hurt their feelings. You don't want to not give your kids what they want. You know, they want phones and they want tablets and they want the internet, but boundaries is really, really important. Boundaries around what we're consuming and also what we're exposing other people to, because also boundaries with our sharing, right? Boundaries with our expectation of others, especially at work or when you're dealing with kids. As a leader, I remember I was always very mindful of what I told my team, what I shared with them, what emails I forwarded, so that they didn't feel overwhelmed with information, overwhelmed with requests. You know, I always used to joke with them, and Lee'll vouch for this. I used to say, I'm the dam. Like, I'm acting like a dam, and I'll hold back what isn't necessary, the noise that isn't necessary for you guys to focus entirely on what it is that you need to focus on to get your job done and to do it well.
And Zoe, sorry, I was going to add to that actually, because I think what Priya said about the information and you saying about acting as a dam, I think we're in I guess it's a social learning piece, because all of the social media and that is so new, really. You've only had a decade of everyone learning how to utilize it. And like anything in life, you've got these two opposing views, where you've got freedom of news and information, which is great, yet then you've got fake news being created for various agendas. And then somewhere trying to provide a governance structure for that, you've got these corporate entities that obviously have a biased view and objective, you know, the likes of YouTube saying that they're the ones that can provide censorship. Be like, well, what values and morality are they providing that censorship from? So it's quite hard, I guess, even like I said, the information overload, then also what information to trust, who's censoring that. It's quite a tricky path at the moment.
It is definitely at the moment, and the impact that it's having on our ability to generate and restore energy is huge. It's massive. It's global. It's global. Chris, would you like to say something?
Yes, I've heard some really good words being floated here, and I want to relate specifically to something that Ross said. Sorry, I'm thinking in Afrikaans, speaking in English again. So apologies for that. And that's with regards to the value system. And then Priya, you said, you know, there's no filter. And I'm probably preaching for myself here. I think the filter is our value system. And the second thing is, we have not kept up in the changing world to have the courage to stand up for our value system and adjust behaviors within our value system to be able to deal with the challenges that we're facing now. And I remember many years ago while studying, it was very much focused on doing everything that you can do to get as much information out of, you know, the ecosystem within which you operate. Maybe that's not the right approach that we need to follow. I think we need to be very aligned and attuned to what our value system is and what that really means, and use that as the barometer to which we measure what we spend our time on. Otherwise, you just get totally overloaded.
Absolutely. Thank you. All right. Thank you, everybody. So what to do? Let's talk about first the impact. I really want to share with you, one of the most important areas of this for me is sharing about the nervous system and how this impacts on you physically, and how this links to that time generation, because the social media aspect, the relationships, the food, the liquid, everything that we're consuming has an impact on your nervous system, because your brain interprets it, makes it mean something, and sends messages to the body through the nervous system. And exactly to Priya's point, we are creating and generating different hormones and different chemicals in our body as a result of what we're consuming. So we're either going to be creating meaning which is negative, because our brain has a negativity bias. So if I show you this one, and you'll get this afterwards, but our brain perceives risk and it has a negativity bias. And it's designed that way because it's a survival tool. It's a tool that was gifted to us to keep us safe from the environment around us, to make sure that we didn't die. And that's what it's still doing. And we have evolved. We've got technology. We've got safe homes. We don't have saber-toothed tigers hunting us down anymore. We don't actually have many predators at all, right? So our nervous system is a bit outdated and it's a bit prehistoric, and it needs to update, but it's not evolving as fast as the environment around us. So what it's looking for all the time is what's wrong. Our brain is looking for what is wrong 95% of the time. What is wrong here? What is not right? What is unsafe? What do I need to look out for? What do I need to listen for? What do I need to look for? What do I need to feel for that is wrong? Now, if you work in an industry, or if you're surrounded by people who also have a very strong negativity bias, so an industry where you're looking for the reds all the time, so you might have a very high health and safety risk that you're trying to manage. You might have a lot of people who are working in potentially politically unstable jurisdictions that you need to manage the risk there. So where you're managing high levels of risk, what is wrong is a great question to ask. Taps right into this nervous system activation though, where you're in cortisol and adrenaline, because you're looking for what's wrong, you're seeing what's wrong, and then you're tackling what's wrong. Now, if you're constantly pumping cortisol and adrenaline into your bloodstream through your nervous system, that's going to generate energy. So to a point, it makes us feel, because it puts us into a fight mode. So it'll generate energy, our brain will start functioning faster, our muscles will get filled with blood, we'll feel energized. So you might find in your personal life to generate energy, you're doing things like running, high cardiovascular exercise. You might do weight training. You might do something like jiu-jitsu or boxing. You might be into adrenaline sports, driving fast cars, motorbikes, all of that stuff. Lots of dancing, maybe something that really generates energy, but is actually depleting energy at the same time. So what you're consuming, and then what your brain is turning that into, and then what you're choosing to do with it through your body, is depleting energy while you're feeling like it's generating energy. Hopefully that makes sense. Why is it depleting energy? Because the body cannot heal and restore when it's in fight, flight, or freeze mode. When it's got adrenaline and cortisol running through it, it is ready to take action. It is activated. So the healing functions get switched off. The repair, so all of our tissues are, continuously regenerating and repairing, that slows down. So you can't actually accumulate energy while you're in this high octane state of stress. And a lot of us function in this state most of the time. And back to the point of consumption, we add to this by consuming newspaper articles, social media, conversations about what's wrong in the world, what's going on, what's bad. We just add to it. So we're adding layer upon layer upon layer of stress hormone, negativity bias, and energy depletion into our system. And it is constant, and we don't even know we're doing it. Add to that alcohol consumption, not eating healthily, and only doing cardiovascular high energy like HIIT. When that came out, I was like, no, please don't be pushing HIIT on everybody, high impact. What's the T stand for? I don't know, but the HIIT exercising. Thanks. I saw you mouth it there, Heather. Thank you. But we're adding layer upon layer upon layer of cortisol and adrenaline into our body, and we get 4 weeks holiday a year as well, maybe 5 if you're in England, maybe 6 if you're on a long service. And then when we're on holiday, we eat lots, we drink lots, we hang out with lots of people, we fill our homes with family and friends, we're on. So it's never ending. It's an onslaught of energy depletion. And like I said at the beginning, if we don't have the energy to be cognitively functioning well, physically functioning well, emotionally functioning well, tapping into our spirituality, whatever that might be, everything's going to take longer, and we won't be aware of it. You only get aware of the impact of this when you stop doing it, when you cut out the alcohol, when you cut out the caffeine, when you cut out the stimulants, when you stop on the treadmill of cortisol and adrenaline, and you actually take a step back from all of this. And then you realize, oh my goodness, I've gained 3 hours in a day because I'm sleeping less. I now don't need 8 hours sleep a night. I only need 5 or 6 because my body is actually being allowed to heal during the day. Let's get on to that. So this is an illustration of what I've just created, which is the stimulus coming in, the hormones going into the body, and then the body either generating energy and depleting its energy stores, or what we can do is something else. See here, these safety hormones. So here it says hormones at the top. I haven't got my pointer on. Hang on. Oh, look, I can annotate. Draw. Let's go new here. Safe. There you go. Wow. Safety. So instead of taking in all of consuming negative information, negative conversation, negative environment, food and drink that isn't good for us, that's going to cause us to release stimulant hormones, what we can do is we can do something for our bodies that is really going to give us energy and time back, which is have it feel safe. Because all of those things are making our nervous system go into a state of activation where something is wrong and all is not well and I am not safe. If we allow our body to feel safe, and what does that look like? Well, it looks different for everybody, but I'll give you some examples soon. We release oxytocin, dopamine, and serotonin, and that is the hormone that says to the body, no saber-toothed tigers, nothing to worry about here, switches off the cortisol and adrenaline, and actually allows the body to go into a state of healing. Now, we mostly only do this if we're in this state of danger when we're awake. We mostly only do this when we're asleep, which means you might need more sleep because you've got to heal more at night. And if you could cut 2 hours of your sleep off every night, 2 hours a day, 14 hours a week, you get an extra day a week. So you end up having 8 days a week instead of 7. Now, if you can have 8 days a week instead of 7, you can probably only work 4 out of the 5, which there you get your 4-day working week, which is something that I aspire to encourage everybody that I work with to move towards, a 4-day working week. or you spread those hours across the day and you do more with your free time. But if you can just cut 2 hours of sleep out of your regular regime, not 2 hours that you need, 2 hours that you don't need, you gain a day a week. Now, what are the things that we can do to release more of these safety hormones? So I have written down here, and that's another thing that I'm going to come on to in a second. Oh, here, let's explain the generating versus restoring. So I've explained this with a lot of words. Here are the few words that I've written down. So where does energy come from? So we can either generate it, which is a forceful generation of energy, which is that consumption and exertion. So we can consume food and liquid to make us give us energy. So sugary snacks, caffeine, we can consume something to give us a forceful generation of energy, or we can exert ourselves to generate energy. So we can do physical activity that puts our body into a state of fight, flight, or freeze, that nervous system activation. So we'll go for a long run and we'll exert ourselves and create cortisol and adrenaline, which gives us, again, a full state of energy. What that does is that's nervous system activation, and that actually depletes our energy stores. Because where does the energy come from? It has to come from somewhere. Or we can restore our energy, which is nervous system deactivation, which is rest and repose. And that's the healing hormones. Now, the more you restore your energy, the more energy you've got, the less sleep you need, the more time you have. When we're generating energy, we're depleting it at the same time, because it needs to come from somewhere. So it gets taken out of our cells, it gets taken out of our body. Because although we're giving ourselves a shot of caffeine, the caffeine isn't actually the energy. The caffeine increases the heart rate, it increases the way, the vascular system. The vascular system needs energy to do that increase. So it takes energy from our energy stores in our body. It depletes our energy. So caffeine depletes your energy, sugar depletes your energy, because it gives you that false sense of energy when you actually haven't got any in your bloodstream. So again, where does it get the energy from? It gets it from your cells. I'm really passionate about this. And the way to reduce cortisol and adrenaline, there's two ways. You can reduce your the amount of negativity bias that you're exposing yourself to. So switch off your social media, reduce your exposure to all of those negative stimulants that are coming in, that are giving your brain all that negative feed for it to feed off and pump adrenaline and cortisol into your body, because this will be happening subconsciously. And or you can do restorative energy techniques. Now, these will be different for everybody on the call, and I want you to think about, as I talk through this, say these words, how these might apply to you. So rest, that means something to everybody, different to everybody, but rest more. Repose, repose is like a state of stillness. Now, sometimes you're still while doing something. This doesn't mean not doing anything. It's being still. Being still is possible while doing. So I'm very still internally when I go for long walks. I spend a lot of time in nature, and I'll walk for kilometers, and I'll be doing a lot physically, but my internal system, my stillness, my heart rate doesn't, it's a kind of a meditative walk. I'm not thinking so much. I'm noticing nature. I'm present in the environment that I'm in. It's beautiful. There's nothing scary. There's nothing to tell my nervous system to get activated. Australia, maybe there is a bit more than, say, England, but a couple of weeks ago I did a 20-kilometer walk and a kangaroo jumped out the bush, and that properly got me activated, but it was only momentarily. Calm, peace, joy. So when we're experiencing joy with children or loved ones or an animal, like horse riding, so restorative, joyful, free, fulfillment. So what puts you in this state, and how can you introduce moments? It doesn't, like I said, it doesn't have to be 30, 40, 50 minutes or an hour. Meditation, to Jonathan's point, listening. I know Ross, if you don't mind me sharing, Ross has got a real musical talent. So playing a musical instrument, really lose yourself in the moment of music and creating music if you can. There's so many opportunities, and it's very generative. If you can spend 10 minutes every couple of hours doing something restorative, it's generative in terms of energy, really generative. And then you'll find yourself needing less sleep, and you'll need to actually be in bed for less time, or you'll feel more energized. You'll be able to do things faster, and you'll need less sleep, and you gain hours in the day. And if you're leading large organizations, if you've got 10, 20, 30, 40, 100, 400, 500, thousands of people working for you, and you get everybody to take part in an experiment like this, you could create years of time in a month. We have a hand. Did I see a hand? Angie?
Yeah, hi everyone. Sorry, you keep talking about sleep, we hear the so many hours a day, which is, required. And I think the going number is between 7 and 8 hours sleep. So are you talking about if we hit this optimal need less sleep, is it around the 7 or 8 hours, or are we now looking at 5 to 6 hours?
Now, it's a really great question. And I don't, but these numbers that they throw at us, 5 fruit and veg a day, 7 to 8 hours of sleep, it's good for generalizing an issue and creating a conversation. It's not good for individual guidance. So everybody's different, everybody's individual. All I can talk from is personal experience. So the reason I know so much about this was I did an experiment on myself for 12 months. I turned myself into a guinea pig, and I experimented in so many different ways, got a personal trainer, changed my diet, did all of these lifestyle changes. Lee will remember, because I was like an absolute machine, wasn't I, Lee? I didn't miss a beat, did I?
No, you chewed me off in many meetings about training.
I did, right? And you're fit. And I was like on it. So I did a whole experiment on myself. And what happened for me was I was working a lot. Again, Lee and I were working together at the time. I was traveling a lot, working a lot. There was a lot of generating energy and depleting my energy stores. When I tapped into this new way of being, which was to do with diet, consumption of food, alcohol, drink, but also mental consumption, I went down from needing, I didn't get 8 to 9 hours of sleep. I needed 8 to 9 hours of sleep. I went down from needing 8 to 9 down to needing 6. So I gained between 2 or 3 hours a day. And there's a difference between what you need and what you give yourself. Most of us don't give ourselves the sleep that we need. So there's an accumulation of depletion of energy. But I would really encourage you, and Heather did this as well. So we've done a little bit of an experiment on Heather in October, where I said to Heather, do you want to try this out and see what difference it makes? Heather, do you want to share what difference it's made to you, making all these lifestyles?
Yeah, so I just had a really rough first 6 months of 2021, and I needed like a reset. So I had approached Zoe and told her that I was going to do a sober October, and I was going to eliminate meat from my diet. And I usually like to work out. I'm a culprit of the HIIT workouts, and I didn't work out at all. I just took long walks, and I eliminated sugar, alcohol, meat, and limited social media to an hour every day for a month. And I just feel like I'm living with such intention now. That's the best word for it. I just feel like everything I do has intention. I had clarity, so I had to have really tough conversations with some people in my life. And I didn't feel like I just felt like I was coming from a pure state. I was just speaking from my heart, and I was able to get and receive these hard conversations with people because of that. And yeah, I'm still doing it. I have had a little alcohol, but not, I mean,
not right now, I'll just add, you haven't had a little alcohol right now. But in your life, yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for it's been amazing, hasn't it? Thank you.
It has.
So yeah, it does make a massive difference. It takes, and again, going back to the comment I made around boundaries, it requires boundaries. It requires resilience and discipline. I went to many a work do where there was lots of free everything, and it was a no from me. And you've got to also put up with other people's non-agreement. So when we talk about agreement and what the environment demands of you, you have to be able to say no and be able to deal with the response that you might get. You know, some of my friends were like, it confronted them about their alcohol dependency, and it had them feel, you know, like there was something wrong. So yeah, lots of things that it can bring up and confront. Is there anybody else on the call? Because I know there are other people who've been trying this out over the last few months. I don't know if anybody else wants to share their experiences. Yeah.
I'm usually a half a bottle of wine a night type person, and I gave up the drink I got up to 45 days, and then my first drink was just last Friday night.
Well done.
The clarity, the sleep, like I'm naturally waking up when the sun rises, Like, yeah, it's amazing, and I feel more on point at work. I still get that 3 o'clock if it's meeting after meeting. Start to zone out, but I see what it is, and I just take some time off work and go for a walk. But yeah, just so much more energy, so much more what you're thinking is clear. I like the word clarity that Heather said as well.
Yeah, it's incredible. Thank you, Angie. And if you know, and one of the things that I'd love for you to consider or take away from this webinar is look at the world around you and look at what it's encouraging you to be. Look at how society encourages, what does society encourage us to consume? We've talked about that one, social media, the news, but what are the people around you encouraging you to consume? What is your organization encouraging you to consume? How is your environment, the people, the company, the organization, the community, you know, what is it encouraging you to be in terms of a consumer? And is that what's best for you? Is that going to give you the life that you want? Is that going to give the energy that you need? Is that going to give you the time that you need to fulfill on your purpose, to fulfill on your promise to yourself and your kids and your family and your life? Because there is so much being pushed on us subconsciously by our environment that we're not aware of, that I think we really need to become more aware of, and then choose and not make it wrong. It's really important that we don't judge any of this and make it a moral issue, because then we just build more resistance towards it. Why are things like that and why are they not like this? The world is the way it is. We can change it by choosing who we're being and how we're showing up in it, but we can only do that once we notice what's being put onto us, what we are at the effect of. Because you can't choose anything if you're not aware of it. You can't choose anything if you're not being presented with it and confronted with it. Hopefully that makes sense. Did I just see a hand go up? Oh
yeah, Priya.
Priya?
Yeah, thank you. It's really interesting to think about how we can help our nervous system. And I teach some like yoga and breathwork, but just for other people, when we breathe effectively, it can help reduce, it controls our nervous system. So if anybody wants to, like online, there's lots of different things, but if we think about our nervous system being really busy and overactive, to calm our nervous system down, breathing slowly and exhaling for longer can really help to, from going to going and it gives us an instant, okay, I've got this kind of. And I think, like you've just said, it's about how can we reset? How can we find bits of calm in our day? That's really interesting, really good way to look after our well-being. Yeah,
it is. You're so right. Thank you for bringing that, because that is something that I do that I haven't mentioned. Thank you. That just 10 belly breaths. So if you breathe diaphragmatically, which is above your diaphragm in your chest, it's kind of saying to the nervous system that you're not taking big enough breaths, so there might be something that it needs to respond to. If you breathe into your belly, beneath the diaphragm, where you raise your belly and push your belly out, that's telling the nervous system, right, she's relaxed, he's relaxed, I can relax. Thank you, Priya, because that's really easy and free. And it's just there.
Take it to work.
It's right there in front of us. Yeah. So, now I don't know how to get rid of that annotation. Oh, well, never mind. So what are the systems you can put in place to create more energy and time in your life is the question that I'd love for you to take away. But notice what you are already at the effect of, that you might not be noticing, you might be stepping over, you might be just saying to yourself, oh, it won't do any harm. Will it? Try without it and see what difference it makes, because you won't know until you take it out of your life what difference, what impact it's actually having on you. So and also we're a kind of a health warning on this. Don't take too much out at once, because that's probably going to make the nervous system might go into a bit of shock. So don't go away from this going, right, I'm going to stop everything. Like, notice, because you'll then, if you take one thing or two things out at a time, you can see what's making the biggest difference. Because we also want to enjoy our lives, right? Because some of these things that we're being exposed to, pleasant. I like a glass of wine. People on the call know that. Chris and I had a great night out, didn't we, Chris? But it's about choosing powerfully in the moment, and then being able to restore your energy after you've done those things. So what systems are you going to put in place to create more energy and time in your life? questions and follow up. I wish I hadn't annotated now. I'll figure out how to. Oh, there we go. So we've done questions throughout. Thank you so much for your contribution. That was a really, we've recorded this, so that will be available to you. The team will send you an email after this with the recording and various things that I now need to share with you so that you can get more out of this experience. The do's and don'ts, we've covered that. So don't eradicate everything at once, please. If you are thinking of doing anything around this, contact me, contact your health practitioner, have a conversation with somebody that is also professional, someone that's professional in the health field before you do anything physical in terms of your diet and stuff, if you want to. But do experiment if you feel comfortable. Do experiment and do notice those things around you that are telling you to be a certain way, and share this as well, please. I would love for you to share this and say to others, look, what difference would it make if all of us, if there was 4 or 5 of you or a team, what difference would it make if we all had a go at this and see how much time we can actually create? Because if we stop thinking about time as a finite resource and we actually say we can invent it and create it and manifest it through our energy consumption, there's so much possibility out there. Finally, if you're interested in learning more about what we do at Luminary Mindset, we have got this absolutely fantastic online learning development program that we've just launched. So if you want to find out more, let me know. We've done Jay, who is our Jay and Heather have built this, so I'm not taking any of the credit at all. Like, I came up with the content ideas, but it's basically because I am a finite resource. Unfortunately, I can't make more of me, which is a real shame. So because I'm a finite resource, I've created an online training program, which is all of the knowledge that I have, all of the insights that I have. I've done videos, look at that, that's really cringy. But yeah, filmed videos, all of my messaging, and there's loads of resources there. You've got downloads, you've got worksheets. So if anybody's interested in accessing everything that I know thus far and getting access to this program, please let me know. It's available online, you can get it on your phone, and it's a really quick and easy way of getting access to my content and my insights. Thank you, Jay, for putting this together, because it looks amazing. Never in my life would I have imagined that we'd have something like this. And it links to a community page as well, which we update with all of our content, and you get insights from me. So that's available to anybody that's interested. And then just finally, I'd be really, really, really grateful if you feel it in your heart to make any kind of contribution, because value exchange is really important to me. This charity, my very good friend, and Jackie and I now work together, she is building a school in Nepal for around 140 children in a Nepalese town. The town saved her husband's life 25 years ago when they were traveling. He wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for the community. So she's now giving back to that community by building them a school. It's almost complete. We don't need very much more to complete it. We've just got a few classrooms to finish. So if you have any desire to reciprocate because of the value that you got today, please make a contribution to Bright Futures of Bardia. We'd be forever grateful. It will make such a difference. And when we get to go out there next year, hopefully there'll be videos uploaded onto our community site on LinkedIn to show you the difference that it can make. If you want to find out more about this charity, of course, contact me directly as well. But we'd be really forever grateful for any support there, because really the intention of Luminary Mindset, the intention of this organization that I've set up, is to create value and make a difference to the world by empowering people to make different choices with their life, within their organizations, within their communities, so that we can all make a difference. Exactly to Ross's point, how can one person make a difference? Well, it's by asking other people to make a difference with you. So that's my request. Thank you. And that's how you contact us. We're on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and YouTube. But if you've got any questions, reach out to me at zoe@luminarymindset.com. You can find me on LinkedIn. And I am so unbelievably grateful that you all came today. It makes such a difference having people, real people. And I have to take a bit of a personal risk because I don't know what you're going to say and I don't know where we're going to go. And that's fine, because I like that. It's called freshly baking in my old world. But it's so nice not to just have to talk to a screen, and it's been wonderful to have you here. We'll be running another one. We're not going to do a full webinar in December. We're running a kind of a smaller community session in December, because I know everyone's so busy in December. So we figured we'd let you off the hook coming in December. But if there is a demand for it, let me know. But the next one will be in January, and you'll all be on the mailing list. And I hope to catch up with those of you that are in Australia face-to-face soon. John, I didn't say hello to you. Hi, John. We've got a lot of the Media team here, so thank you for coming. And yeah, we'll catch up with you in we'll catch up with you in January. And if anybody's got any personal questions that they want to ask me, please feel free to stay on now. I'm going to hang about for a bit. Thank you.
Thank you, Zoe.
Yeah, thanks, Zoe.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.